raise your hand, use the hand raise feature, that would be great. And Crystal.
Hi, everyone. As Pam mentioned, I am the owner of CRM Bookkeeping and Sandwich, and I look forward to trying to answer a lot of your questions, go through the basics of QuickBooks Online, kind of give you a hint of where you can go, and hopefully we'll be good for a good class. I am going to share my screen, so hold on just a second, and we'll get started. All right. So this is an introduction to QuickBooks Online. There are various reasons of why you would want to use it. It helps with tracking business expenses as well as desktop, but as all of you mentioned, QuickBooks Online gives you the kind of ability to be anywhere on any laptop, be able to sign in and get that same information. So it's very good to just have access wherever you happen to be. It gives you different reports internally for, and externally. It helps you understand your profit and loss, how much income, how much expenses you're out, what your assets are, how much you owe to people, and miscellaneous other financial reports such as cash flow, product inventory, services, how much you're making on each individual product, stuff like that. Those same reports are very helpful for, sales tax tracking, income tax tracking, estimated taxes for your income taxes, going out for bank loans. So that's kind of there. And then again, it helps you internally make decisions of tracking and unpaid invoices, products and services, your accounts payable, making sure those are under control, and your accounts receivable, making sure customers are giving you the amount of money on time type of stuff. Now, we also have different versions of QuickBooks. A lot of you that were just talking freelance and self-employed probably is not going to work because it's very basic. It is able to make you just say this one income is personal, this income is business related, and then it just kind of tracks it from there for you. As we can say, it's just basically, it says that help starters, helps you get ahead. Like I said, it helps you uncover tax deductions. It helps you organize receipts. It does have a cool feature of estimating your sales tax as you're putting your income in and your expenses, because right at the top, it just says that, you will owe approximately X amount of dollars. It adds in your miles, runs basic reports as well. And those basic reports, like I said, it's pretty simplistic for most of you. It's really just going to say you have X amount of income, X amount of expenses, and you cannot break it down. And then we will move on. This is where most people will end up. Most people are in anywhere with the Essentials and the Plus. As you can see, there's different various amounts per month. QuickBooks always gives you a special discount in the beginning, depending on the time of the year. They do, discounts for 3 months. Sometimes you can get 4 or 5 and that type of stuff. So we'll just start with where some of you will probably end up with just starting and getting to know QuickBooks and not knowing what type of reporting you need. It's kind of a good introduction to see what's going on. We're Simple Start here. It's $12.50 a month, and it helps you track your expenses and your income. It invoices, and you can invoice your customers, and you can accept payments from them via credit card or check. You can help you maximize tax deductions by being able to enter those expenses and keeping them on your profit and loss. You run general reports for your business, as I mentioned previously. This is the type of thing, your profit and loss, your balance sheet. It doesn't really go into too much detail with products and services or cash flow, but it does have your basics there for for you to get your information on your business. You can also capture receipts, in-track miles, and as I said, it does manage cash flow. Just the more advanced levels you get, the more detailed it becomes with cash flow and budgeting and stuff like that. It helps you track your sales and your sales tax, and you can use it for estimates and for 1099 contractors. This is the time of year for 1099, so it's very nice and easy. It makes it a very simple process for everybody. You can just run a report. If you have all the information in there correctly, it shows you who you need to do the 1099s to, and then you just send them off, and it makes your life easier come tax time. Essentials does all of those same things, except for, actually, I should have mentioned, Simple Start actually only allows you to have one user, where the other versions allow you to have multiple as well. Your account user does not count towards that user, so you could have an accountant or a bookkeeper log in under theirs and have access to your file. Essential. So now we can move on to Essentials. Essentials does all those things that I've listed, as long as you're allowed to have 3 users. So you could have a business owner, your office manager, anybody in your office that you think may need access. It also allows you to have further information on your vendors, where you can enter the bills. You can make sure that see when they're due, net 30, net 15, and you can pay them directly out of QuickBooks. And it allows you, if you have payroll, it allows you to track your time in regards to jobs. And that's usually helpful with construction, landscaping type of businesses, because they're able to take those timesheets and add them to the job for the customer. So now we can move on to Plus, and does all of those same things, except for you get a few more users at 5. And then you are also able to keep better track of products and services. So you can actually have all your products listed. You can keep track of your inventory. You can run sales reports to see which ones are selling, which ones are not, which ones you need to reorder, that type of thing, as well as the profitability of those, of some of the projects, sorry. You can break out your customers by project and kind of tell a lot of information from there. And then we go to Advanced, which is very, very customizable level. You can have customized reports. You get priority customer service. You manage employee expenses, as well as being able to batch invoice things for your customers and enter in a bunch of things and send them all out at once. And then, as the rest of it says, is your on-demand training, your automated processes, and you can restore company data because they keep backup files for you. Most clients RUC are usually Essentials to Plus, is where people stand. A lot of people have, if you're going into the custom reporting and stuff like that, you have a POS system, that can help you kind of do a little bit of different reporting. So a lot of customers have bypassed the advanced one to deal with something that's more individualized to their business. Hopefully that helps you answer what could possibly be better for you and what's not. Pam, do you have a question?
I do. I was going to say, if someone picked one of these levels and found out they needed to be in a different level, is it easy or hard to move up a level or down a level depending upon their needs after they get started?
Oh, absolutely. Like it's very easy to just to switch. You can go up and down depending on what you find is needed. All right. We will move on to the next screen. this is kind of important for most people. For everything in QuickBooks, if it's desktop or if it's online, the way you were taught to get somewhere is not always the same as the next person that you're seeing, and you can't worry about it. QuickBooks is very intuitive on the fact that they let you do things 3 or 4 different ways. We've picked the 3 for that most people use, and we've kind of pointed them out for you. So you log into QuickBooks Online, you will end up with your home screen as the first page you will see. It looks exactly like this, and you will see that there's just multiple ways to kind of get to what you need. You can hit the new button, and it brings a whole list of, customers and bank deposits and stuff we will address in a few more slides. And it basically is everything that almost everything you can see here, you're able to access on this new button. You can also get to your same customers and your banking and your vendors on this left side here. This is probably the way that most people do it. You're able to see every time, the ones with the arrows, you're able to see different menus that pop up. And then again, you have over here the gear icon of you can add some stuff there. This is mainly where your main settings are, where you'd want to import things and go from there. All right, so here we are, where this is going to be the first way to show you how to navigate to different things in QuickBooks Online. As you can see, that's your customers, your vendors, your employees, and then they have other miscellaneous stuff that you can do here. I'm just going to go down the list real quick, kind of give you an idea of what each one of these things actually do. An invoice is when you're invoicing your customers for sales. Some of you may not even need to invoice your customers because you have sales being directly imported from a POS system or from journal entries. And that's okay as well. But the ones that do, if you're billing a customer or you giving them terms, you would be doing that here in the invoice. You'd be receiving payment against those invoices here. Some industries need an estimate, and giving a customer a quote and what it's going to cost for the job, and that would be here. Your credit memo would be anything that you have invoiced to a customer and you need to give them a refund for something that was broken or your pricing was a discrepancy, stuff like that. Sales receipts are usually used in some nonprofits, in some retail. They're broken down by category or by product, gives you information of what your sales were for that day and what your bank deposit is. A refund receipt is just that. It's given a refund to your customer for somebody that you did not invoice. Delayed credit and delayed charges are not used very often, but they are where you can issue a credit today for a customer, but you may not want it to show up until February 1st on their account for whatever reason, and that's where you would use those. Your vendors, an expense is something that you did not have a bill for, you did not write a check directly for. They're kind of things that go through your checking account or your credit card without being directly related. Being direct, having that check to offset it and stuff. A check is exactly that. Is you've written a check to somebody, you paid it against a bill and whatnot. Your bill is if a vendor sends you an invoice, as I was talking about. So anybody that's going to track these with your net 30, net 15, something that's due later on. You have the option to pay bills, right? Multiple bills all at once. Purchase orders are next for anybody that does, you need to keep track of what kind of orders you order from your suppliers. A vendor credit is pretty similar to a customer credit. It would be something that you overpaid and a vendor owes you or a supplier owes you money. Your credit card credit would be anything that was, again, a refund. Usually some people were able to use those as your payments, but that's not always the best way to do it. And again, you can print checks and you can pay bills all at once. You can print checks, a bunch of checks together. And then employees is kind of pretty self-explanatory. Anything if you paid for payroll, you can, enter it from here. You get all your time activities, your weekly timesheet, and any kind of payroll to enter every week. And then this is just miscellaneous items that you would use. Bank deposit, this is how you would record your undeposited funds that we will talk about later into your bank statement. These are transfers amongst your bank statement. Any journal entries that may be needed from your POS system if you need to look at it or your accountant needs to change anything. Customer statement, inventory adjustments, and your pay down credit cards. And these are just brief overviews of everything you can do in QuickBooks Online and just one easy way to do it. And then this left-hand menu is basically going to all those things I described in the previous screen. You're going to be able to access here on the left. Each dashboard, and the dashboard is pretty informative for you. You can customize this as you need, but it will show all your bank statements at a glance. Your bank accounts at a glance. Any credit cards that you may have set up to QuickBooks, any invoices that are unpaid versus what you paid, so you can know like what's out there, what's due to you. You can see your expenses, have you made enough money in your profit and loss, and it just shows how many more are there. If these items to review are items under the banking tab that just haven't gone through your checking account yet, or you haven't approved that has gone into QuickBooks, what's gone through your checking account, and we will address that later. But this is pretty cool for you to just kind of one shot at a glance be able to see everything.
I had a quick question.
Yes.
I was having trouble because when I went into QuickBooks, I paid the $25 for last month, but it kept logging me in as if I was an employee because I have friends that are, like I have an example of a friend who's employed me at certain times when I've worked for her. So somehow I was logging in to be paid as her employee. Have you seen that before? Or is that something that's, is there like a different way that you switch to be a different user regarding if your Intuit's is paid, like I'm a paid employee?
And did it ask you to use, it allowed you to use the same email?
Yeah, it asked, well, I don't know about that. That's interesting. I never thought it would make me change my email, but when I registered as her, I was only her employee for last summer, but when I like typed in my email and password to QuickBooks to start a new, like I had already paid the $25, it kept logging me in as but I don't want to distract from the class. I can ask at a separate time. I just wanted to mention that because they had told me over the phone that that's something that I have to call customer support about. And I didn't know if you knew if there's an easier solution where I'm just not pressing the right button.
Yeah, I haven't seen it before. I mean, it makes sense to me that you're in there as, for QuickBooks Online, they have multiple portals and they're just using one login. But sometimes when you go to create it, it says, oh, we've already have this email, use a different one.
Okay.
So I'm not really sure how to fix that, honestly. I would have to kind of dig into it a little bit further to figure out the easiest way to switch.
Yeah, maybe I can ask you after class. I don't want to lose my email. I can't give them a new email because it's my email that I've used for 10 years. I'd be pretty mad if I had to switch my email,
Absolutely, I understand that. Yeah, we can definitely touch base and I'll think about it a little bit because it's not like it's an easy toggle between employees and employers. So Let me think on it. Right now, I don't know an answer for you, but I can definitely think and maybe look into it, and we can kind of send you, Pam, an email.
Perfect. Thank you so much. The
No
other question,
problem.
real quick, the other question I had from the beginning was, I've heard in the past business owners tell me that they prefer the, what do you call it, the desktop version of QuickBooks. But when I was researching it, it's not really that available. Is that something that the industry is just steering away from now, that you have to pay for it monthly, or is there a version of QuickBooks that you can buy that just gets on your computer like Excel?
They're keeping desktop, but exactly what you said is Intuit is trying to move everything into a subscription-based software, and being able to see things online. So as of 2022, QuickBooks Desktop is subscription-based as well.
So-
if you can get your hands on 2021, I mean, that's still good for 3 years before you start losing functionality.
But in some ways, as a business owner, like this class is probably designed for the next generation of business owners. It's better for us just to accept that in the future, it's not going to be a desktop version. It's going to be a membership, and we should just move towards that.
Basically, yes.
All right, no problem. Thank you.
Unfortunately, I'm one of those that I understand that, desktop reporting is a lot different than what QuickBooks Online is. But it is. Intuit eventually will get rid of the desktop version. There's just a lot of accountants and people in the industry that are kind of putting up a fight. So their way to make it work was to have it subscription-based as well in 2022.
No problem. I'll use the membership. Thank you.
Thank you. Pam, were you going to say something before?
No, I was just going to say that I was going to put that on the parking lot list so we can get back to Liam later.
Okay, sorry about that. All right, we will continue on. So up here in your settings is the third way to access some information about your QuickBooks company. You will see that you can have your account settings. This will give you information, all the information about your company. So your EIN number, your legal address, the name of your company, the LLC, the DBA, all of that information that you've entered, you'll be able to see that at a quick glance. You will be able to see customize some forms in there that we will do later on in the class. You can manage your different users depending on how many you have. You'll be able to see a list, who's there, reset their passwords, stuff like that. Custom form styles is to be able to put your logo onto invoices and have the lines match up to something that works for your business and your estimates, your invoices, and that's it. And then your chart of accounts will have all the information for this information that is on your profit and loss. This is where you come up with the accounts of what income you want. If you need it to have multiple multiple pipelines that are coming in for income, you can label them accordingly. QuickBooks Labs is kind of where the new, fresh stuff is. Some of the stuff you're able to beta test before they come out, so that ends up kind of cool. And then you have your various lists that are everything that's on a list in QuickBooks Online. You'll be able to gather here any products and services, as I mentioned before, your reoccurring transactions of something that you want to have list, automatically populate once a month, twice a month, once a week, whatever time frame you've decided. You're able to see attachments for receipts and any kind of invoices all in one glance. Any custom field lists that you may have, any tags that somebody happens to use. Tags are the way around, instead of using classes and you're just looking for somebody that, you've got a bill that's just for one particular project that you'll never do again. You can just tag it to be that, and then you'll be able to search all of those at once. Your tools, you have the opportunity to order checks through Intuit, but a lot of people just use, any online services that they want and through their bank, depending on where you're ordering and what you're doing. Import data is importing a customer list or any kind of vendor list that you may have from Excel or, a CSV file. This is where those people that we're talking about switching from desktop to online, you would import your desktop data here, and then you would follow all the prompts. Just the opposite of the import data. This is any exporting if you needed to export your customer list, your vendor list, etc. Reconcile the bank statements, any kind of budgeting that you may, reports that you may need, or to set up your audit log. This will show you where anybody that's, when they've logged on, when the last time they've logged on, who happened to accidentally delete something or change something, you're able to see it through the audit log. Smart Look and Resolution Center are more of if you were looking for QuickBooks Online help. These would be where you'd see all your previous cases, what the results were, etc. And then, you know, feedback is anytime you can give into it, you know, hey, I'd love to see XYZ change. They actually read them all, so people can feel free to put their input in there. And then again, just their basic privacy statements of what they share, what they don't share, whatnot are here. All right, so now, I guess I kind of addressed this a little bit early. I'm sorry about that. But this is your dashboard. So when you log on, this is what you will see as your overview for the company. And it's, like I said previously, it's kind of showing your profit and loss of, you know, a quick view of saying you've made so much money in income, you've spent so much money in expenses, and it lets you know if you're in profit or if you have a loss for that particular month. You know, any of these boxes, you can change the date time frame with the last 30 days. You can do it last year, you can do it last quarter on this drop down. So you can specialize it and customize it to however you would like. Same goes for just your expenses, just your sales, and just your invoices before. I don't think there's much else to know. This is really just used as a quick overview for you to see where things stand in your business, what your bank balance happens to be, anything like that. Oops. Sorry about that. This next screen, you will see, and this will be the same for any of these on the left menu, that what you see on this drop down from the arrow, you will also see across the top when you click on banking. So you get to see banking, which is that checking account list, your credit cards, your savings accounts that you may have for your business, that type of stuff. Those will show here with your balances, what's in QuickBooks, and what you haven't accepted. App transactions would be something that if you have any kind of apps, Stripe, Square, anything like that that come in, if you have a CRM that is logging in and keeping track of customer information, you'll be able to see what it adds, what it doesn't there. Again, tags I mentioned, and this is, you can also find your receipts here. And like I said, it's just one of those things again with QuickBooks is that you can see things here. You can also, once you click on banking itself, those same information will be here. All right. So we've already kind of gone over this list, but we're going to go into invoicing and your customers and to show exactly what an invoice looks like and how to make it. And, sorry about that. So when you log in, you can go into sales, you go into invoice, and then you will be able to create an invoice for what, customers that you would like to see, what's due, and stuff like that. You want to make sure as much as possible that your customer information is correct because you want to send this off to them looking professional. So you would enter your customer name, your address will and the email will automatically populate as long as you have that information underneath the customer. You will have a default terms that you can change in accounting in the accounts and settings, when you first set up your QuickBooks Online file, it will give you options of, do you want all invoices to be due on receipt, net 15, net 45. You can do custom ones that you want. It's all up to you and how your business is. And then the invoice date, you want to make sure you just have the right date. A lot of people just do that same day. But if you do your billing on the 1st, you knew of net 30, so you want to just make sure you change the date to what's proper. And then you go in and you will have your products and services here. So you would have your, start typing in design, and you can have a description, either pre-populated, or you can go in and type over that if it's something that's valid for you. If this particular customer, had specific requests of something that was on the invoice, you would just go into description, custom design, dash, extra stripes or something like that, whatever you need. Your quantities are here. Your rate is here. Most likely your rate is going to pre-populate based on what you made for your product. But you can also feel free to override that as well as necessary. You can make as many lines as you need. So if you happen to have, 10 items, stuff like that, you just go down here, you add lines. It does 2 at a time. But you can just, like I said, you can add as many as you need. Here is if you had your mouse pointed into a line, you can clear that particular line by deleting it, or you can just clear all lines and start fresh if that's something that was needed. You also have an opportunity to add a subtotal. So if you had all these designs, there you could do subtotal of design, and it will show breakout for a customer what that subtotal equals. You have the opportunity to give a discount if you needed. A lot of places don't do that, but some industries do. If you get early pay discounts or stuff like that. Your sales tax will already be in there if it's as long as it's already set up. It shows your balance due, your total of this particular invoice, and your total balance due. So if a customer happened to pay half an invoice in the beginning and then half the invoice at the end of the month, this difference, this balance would reflect those payments. You also have the opportunity to hit save and close, save and send to your customer, or you can save and make a new invoice once you're done. And then the only other things that I would like to point out, I think, for invoices is down here. Here's your opportunities to print and preview if you needed to do them individually, or if you did customize your forms and you weren't sure that they would look properly, you can print it here before you send it off to your customer. If there's a particular invoice that you need done for the 1st of every month, or the 15th, whatever date you happen to have, you can make that same invoice recurring here. It just has a pop-up in it. It brings you a couple different questions to answer, and you hit OK, and then it starts showing up in your QuickBooks file and sending it to your customer. And then you can customize a particular invoice again to show certain columns, have a certain look to it. And then once you're done with the invoice, if you happen to want to receive payment right away, when you save it, there's actually a little button up here that says receive payment, and then it will bring you to this screen. This screen will allow you to pay that, have that customer pay it. You can pay the invoice depending on what kind of payment it is. So if it's a check, if it's cash, if it's credit card, you would choose that here. You would use the check date or the payment date that went through. You would change that over here. It is always good to have a reference number if you happen to have it. Most of the time, these are just check numbers. But it does come in handy when you have to go back and the customer says, oh, I paid you for that, or I didn't pay you for that. Just having those check numbers helps you pinpoint what the payment was, which invoice it actually went against and whatnot. And then you'll have different deposit information, depending on how many bank accounts and credit cards you happen to have set up with your account. You know, this one in particular has a checking account, a savings account. We will talk about undeposited funds later and what the importance of that is. You know, very rarely are you going to apply this to an asset, but there are opportunities there for you to do so if you happen to need it. And then down here, you will see for the customers, as well as the one invoice that you clicked receive payment for, if there are any other open invoices, you will see them all listed here. You know, and again, if you will also be able to see what the original amount of the invoice was, any open balance for something, like I mentioned, if some places have it where they pay 50% at a certain point and then the 50% at the final, when the job is done, you'll be able to see that there was or was not a payment here. There's any credits to address, and then you end up with the same button down here. It will say save and close, save and send, or save and new. If you want to send your payment, you know, the send would just be a receipt to your customer that just says we received payment for this particular invoice. Most people don't use it. Most people just do save and close or save and new. All right, here is undeposited funds. A lot of you probably don't know what this is. It is basically a placeholder for any deposits that you have received from your customers that have not made it directly into your bank account. So this would be something that if you receive checks from a customer on a Monday and you don't go to the bank until Friday, undeposited funds would be where you would be recording that. You would also use this to record anything that if you had multiple checks from customers that you were depositing in one deposit at the bank, you would be depositing into undeposited funds, then making a new deposit, put those in there, and go from there. Pam, have you run into any questions in previous seminars that have undeposited funds as something that I did not address?
No, most people just don't understand how it's supposed to be used, and so you've explained that.
Okay.
But I do have a separate question from somebody though regarding apps that you talked about a few slides back, and they were wondering if Venmo is connected as an app, and if you receive payments through Venmo, how would you recognize that?
So, in all honesty, I haven't checked the app to know if Venmo is. I know PayPal does and Stripe does it. I want to tell you, yes, Venmo is available, but as I said, I haven't checked lately, and so I can't say for sure. If it is, then you connect them, and then it makes a bank account for it, and that's where all your transactions go through. So everything from Venmo would go into the bank account. Like most people would name it Venmo, and then any transfers out to your business checking account, you would just transfer from Venmo into your basic checking account or savings account that you would use.
Okay. And then I know a lot of people use their personal Venmo for Venmo. And Venmo's working on making people create a business Venmo account for that. So if you're using a personal Venmo, you might not be able to connect it to QuickBooks the way you could a business Venmo.
That is actually very true, since they're changing, you know, the IRS has changed it. So PayPal, Venmo, those type of things at the end of the year of anything over $600, they are issuing 1099. So that's a very valid point.
And Shanta, could you elaborate on your comment there?
Yes, I know that Venmo isn't on there because I've checked in the past.
Okay.
actually checked a few days ago, but I know that PayPal is listed as one of the apps that you can sync to it.
Thank you. All right. All right,
Since
so we just,
since we're broken in at the moment, I'll just let you know we're about 10 o'clock. We don't have a bunch of questions in the queue, so we can go about 20 more minutes and then we'll break for any last questions.
okay. All right. So undeposited funds, this just has a register, just like anything else that you have in QuickBooks. It will show, you know, just your transactions in and out. So if you, when you do an invoice, it actually does hit here, and you can see that there was Amy's Bird Sanctuary, you charged her $220. You know, it was an increase to your undeposited funds, but then when you took the deposit out of undeposited funds and put it into your bank account, it takes it back out. This will not always end up being zero here. Some places have undeposited funds, and there's always some sort of little balance that goes with it, depending on who you've received payments from. You know, have you made them in the pot? You know, have you made it to the bank? As I mentioned in a previous screen, you know, if you get receive payments in QuickBooks on a Monday, and then you do some more on Tuesday, but you don't actually make it to the bank until Friday, that will show an undeposited funds register have, you know, a balance. This should be an in and out account. Like I said, it's just a holding account, so you should have money going in, money coming out. Eventually, at some point, you should be at zero, or you should be very close to zero. You should start worrying if this number just keeps going up and up and up and up, and nothing's coming out, is an indication that there's something wrong with how you're recording your deposits, and that also would mean that you're most likely duplicating your sales. All right, so how to create an estimate is, again, you would be on that screen, you know, go into customers, there is estimate. You click on the estimate, and it is very similar to making an invoice, except for it does not hit your sales until it becomes an invoice. So this would be something for, you know, a photographer or, you know, graphic designer that is sitting there, and the customer is wondering how much it's going to be for them to do the, you know, this photographer to do the wedding. But you're not so sure that the customer is actually going to sign on. This is how you would send them an estimate. So it's the same information. It's customer, you know, which populates your email and the address, as long as it's, you know, in there correctly in the beginning. You have the opportunity to put an expiration date if you would like. Some places like to have their quotes only last for 90 days, 120 days, but that's up to you and your internal processes in your business. And again, you have the opportunity to use tags if it's something that you're particularly trying to do. In this example, you could always just use wedding, so it comes up for wedding when you search it. And again, you've got your product here, any kind of description that you can feel free to override, or you can keep it as your what you've had defaulted. You can have a quantity, so this can always change as well. You know, if there's 3 of them, if there's 1 of them, if there's 20. Just depending on what you're selling and how much. Your rate, that can always change, your taxable or your untaxable. Same thing again here is your discount percentage if you want, any sales tax, and it shows your total. You again also have the opportunity over here to add lines, add the subtotal, you know, write any special notes that you would like the customer to see. You can add attachments to this. So if you were in a situation where you could add your vendor supplier is sending you something and you're billing it to the customer as well, you can attach that there if you need to. You would not really make an estimate recurring, but you have the option. And again, you can also print preview, you customize, again, you save it, or you can save and send, save and close, etc. Sales receipt looks almost the same as the last 2, except for this is just going a deposit that goes directly into your checking account. So if you have, the best way to probably describe it is something like sales, as if you have a customer that just gives you cash when you're there on the end of the job, that you can do a sales receipt right there saying, you know, they gave me $32.40. You received it to whichever account that you were supposed to, if you're going to do undeposited funds or go directly to your bank account. And then you can save and send it or save and close it. And then this way your customer has a copy that they really did give you that cash right on the end of receipt, or they allowed you to, anything that they would do something for a credit card or any of that. You can use this, but this is mainly for cash deposits that people use. All right. So now we've got a couple breakdowns for sales. This again is where, you know, when you click this, it will show you all these things up at the top. It, you know, allows you to kind of show you where your setup is. If you need to do certain things with them, any payment links that you would like to send, we can discuss those later. Again, with sales. So once you click sales and you have this all sales tab open, you can see multiple things from your customers. The first thing would be that if you can see how many, you know, what estimates you have open, how much they equal, how many there are. It also shows if you have any activity that is unbilled that you would need to bill a customer for, and how much that equals. And again, here it says anything that's unpaid, you know, anything that's overdue, how much it is, gives you your open invoices and the amount of money that's been paid in the last, you know, 30 days is usually what this is set for. And it's a pretty cool bar that just one quick glance, you kind of have a good idea of like, oh, I need to go after catching some money, or, you know, okay, I'm good, you know, when what's been paid for us, etc. You can create new transactions up here. The drop down will allow you to give you the information of doing an estimate versus an invoice, and stuff like that. You're allowed to import transactions if you had a whole list in the beginning of what you needed. Again, with QuickBooks and Excel, you just need to make sure the columns match so everything kind of matches up perfectly and gives you a smooth transition. Down here is where you're able to see all your sales. You know, you're able to see at a quick glance of what's an estimate, what's a payment, what's an invoice, you know, who it was to, you know, who it's from, sorry. The due date here, how much it's due, you know, what the total of the invoice was, and what the status is. So have they accepted the, you know, estimate? Have you created it into an invoice? Has it been paid? That type of information is pretty quick to see here. And then this drop-down action gives you a couple different options of if it's something that you no longer need, you have the opportunity to delete it, you can print it, you can create a new invoice, you can receive payment depending on what type of transaction that you're talking about. Yeah. And the one thing I did say here is you can also do, I did not say, is that you could technically click all these if you want, and you can, you know, subtract, you know, if you needed to delete anything, if you needed to send them all to a, if they were all the same, and but for different customers, you can send them to the customers, and you can do that up here from batch actions. And you can also filter these transactions here, up here. You choose your time frame, you choose custom date for what works for you. And then up here, so the last screen was on all sales. This one we've moved over to view all invoices. You can see the same bar here. That kind of is pretty cool of giving you the right information in a quick glance of what's due, what's not due, what have you received in there that's not deposited, what has been deposited in the last 30 days or so. And, you know, it also gives you the opportunity of showing all of these invoices. And the most important part for me on this screen is seeing what's due, what's not due, how many days overdue are they. it gives you a nice quick glance to be able to say like, oh, I know what this is. I talked to Kathy yesterday. She's sending me a check. You're well aware in one glance of what you need to do. This also gives you an opportunity to pretty quickly receive payment and go into that previous payment screen. And up here, like I said, and just like every other one up here in these buttons, you also have the opportunity to create an invoice, create a credit, receive payments, whichever you need in this dropdown. All right, and then payment links. You can set these up if you prefer. It's pretty new for QuickBooks Online. It allows you to set up payments. It gives a quick link to your customers so they can pay you directly without having to just open the invoice and click pay. It gives, you have the opportunity for your customer to have a QR code to scan, and then they can just pay from there. And it's just an opportunity for QuickBooks for people that are out there on the go. Gives your customers a secure way to pay and allows them to be quicker, so there's less waiting.
But there's a cost to that, right?
There is. It's honestly, nobody really uses it, so I don't know them off the top of my head, but most of these rates are 1% of your deposit, and then the credit cards is a normal 3.5. Good call. Thank you, Pam. All right, so now we've moved on from payment links to customers. You're able to see the same bar, what your customers have. I mean, most of this just repeats from that sales tab because hopefully all the sales you have, you've already made a customer for it and attached it there. And this, so this shows a list of all your customers. You can sort them separately. Most of the time it's just going to be alphabetical by customer, but if you needed to, you can click on it. Sorry. You can click on it and move the arrow up or down to have it, alphabetical or not. You could do the same thing over here for the open balance, and it will show who owes what first, instead of just having all these zeros. And it's a good glance for you to just be able to see, hey, Amy's Bird Sanctuary owes me so much money. I received the payment, and you can just go from here, or it just gives you an opportunity to say, oh, they owe me money, and that's good. They're within terms or not. And you can, and then it's just like, just like everything else, depending on how you have it set up, is if you have their information of what they like to call. So sometimes you have a customer that has known for, you need to write the check or the invoice to a certain LLC, but they're known as something else. That would also show up here if you set it up. And like I said, again, with this green button comes in very, very handy for people, and basically any screen you want, because you're able to make new transactions from it. So here you'd be able to add a new customer, and directly from the screen. Excuse me. Products and services is your last tab. You can create a new one. You can move them into different sections if you need it. So like here is showing design is a certain price every month, and then you have foundations. So you have all these concrete, pump, rock foundations are all under foundations, so they're easy for you to see. You would set these up by hitting new. It gives you an opportunity to type in what you would like for the name of your product. What type of service or product would it be? Is it something you're tracking inventory for? Is it just a service? What would you like the sales description to be, and what the pricing is per item as a default? So that way, when you go into your invoices and you just start writing in concrete, it gives you those defaulted descriptions and the defaulted sales and if it's taxable or not. This screen also comes in handy when you are looking for quantities on hand. Instead of running a whole report, you can kind of see that pump is here, you have 25 of them. You can make the decision of, is that enough? Do I need to order more? Do I need to put them on sale to try to get rid of them? Type of decisions that are kind of made and very helpful for here. This will also show you if you've got the parameters set up for each of these individual items. This will kind of tell you on a quick glance of what items are out of stock, low in stock, and then which ones are out of stock.
Hey, Crystal, I have a question from somebody here, and it said, can products import from a connected sales platform? Is there enough there?
What was that?
Is there enough information there for that question for you?
It honestly, I think it depends. I think that's a more detailed question for after the fact, because sometimes you can connect them, but a lot of the times you need to be able to export them into Excel, export them from Excel into QuickBooks Online.
Her example was with Shopify. So if you're using Shopify, can it import that data, which is specific? So we might have to get back to her on that.
Yes, I think it needs to be, it's definitely, like I said, it probably needs to be addressed separately. A lot of times if you are using a third-party app for your inventory, you don't necessarily need it to go into QuickBooks that way, because you would want it, you're basically wanting to keep track of the sales of those items in QuickBooks for financial purposes, and you're keeping track of inventory in your third-party app, such as Shopify.
She said, thank you.
No problem. All right. So we've got that. This is the screen you get when you have a new item and you're starting to create it, where I was talking about on the previous screen, if you're able to choose if it's something that you're having inventory for, if it's a service, if it's non-inventory is also added, and something you can bundle type of things. So inventory is something that you directly sell. If you're going to sell a bottle of water, you order a bottle of water, you sell a bottle of water to the customer, you're tracking that individual bottle, you would want to put inventory. Anything that's non-inventory is exactly what it says here, products that you buy and sell but don't need to track. Quantities, for example, nuts and bolts used in an installation. This is also something where if you had a flower shop and you didn't need to keep it all individualized, you could just do roses versus having yellow roses, red roses, pink roses. Services or something of any, or just that, any kind of service that you're providing to the customer that isn't at an hourly rate or a just a flat rate for the customer. So you're saying that you do graphic design, it's X amount of dollars per hour. I have accounting services, it's the same thing. You can break it down that way. And a bundle is something that you would, if your invoices are selling in particular products where you take a bunch of inventory and you would bundle it together in order to sell to a customer. So something like a gift box, a subscription box, gift baskets, platters, all of that stuff is used here. Pam, did you have another question?
I have one that just came in that says, what would you call SaaS, service or inventory? SaaS. I'm not sure what
That's
SaaS.
it's called software as a service. If you have a software that's a subscription, so it's not inventory, and it's not a service, but it's called software as a service. It's what you call a subscription for software, like
So-
QuickBooks Online is a SaaS.
Exactly. That's actually what I was going to just use as an example. So yeah, you would actually do it as a non-inventory item. So it would be something like myself as a bookkeeper. If you guys didn't have QuickBooks Online yourself and I brought it for you, because you're able to get discounts or certain, different items for different reasons for different items. I would be having it as a non-inventory item. So therefore you can just have it QuickBooks Online, X amount of dollars per month, and it's tracking those sales, but it's not tracking it for inventory purposes.
Okay, and it's not really a service because a service would be more like, landscaping or whatever, right?
Exactly.
Okay.
A service is more, again, using an accounting firm as an example. It would be something that we would do on an hourly basis of, your cleanup's not so big for last year, so we're going to charge you X amount of dollars per hour, is where you would have service.
Thank you.
No problem.
All right, well, we are in the perfect stopping place. Because our next
I thought
slide is
that
the
too.
blank one to say we got there. So, so I guess, let's see, the only question that I have that has come up in the chat that I haven't addressed is recording time, but we get to that in another session. So I'm going to leave that on the parking lot to make sure we address it later. Does anybody else have any other questions on the material that we've gone over today that you would like to ask or get added to the parking lot?
Hi, I have questions about the QuickBooks payroll. Is that something you might address later?
It is.
Awesome, thank you.
I also have a question. That screen at the beginning that has all those, I don't know if you can go back to that slide.
That has what?
Well, at the very beginning, the screen,
The 3 ways to
yeah, the
navigate?
one in slide number 5. Can we customize that? Can we add anything? I want, one of the things I do all the time is, I think it was receive payments or something that I wanted to add, and it didn't seem to have there. And I always had to go this long roundabout route to go up to the new and then down. And it just seemed like in the QuickBooks Online, there was a button there in the equivalent of this for QuickBooks Desktop. There was a button there, and now there isn't.
It's depending on which version you have.
We have Essentials.
Buttons, it's which buttons show up. So they are basically, I'm just trying to think, I don't recall, there's a customized button, but they're all just on this business overview screen that you can customize. This one here, I don't recall being able to just customize it and say what you want. It all just depends on the version that you have and the, like you would have payroll down here if you had payroll signed up for it.
Okay.
So unfortunately, I want to say the answer is no.
Because I noticed
for
you've got receive payments with a little yes, right there, but it's not available. So I wasn't really sure. That's the one I want to add, is receive payments.
So then this is probably where, but you said you were on Essentials?
Yes.
I don't know why.
It just seemed weird. It's there on the desktop version, and I use it constantly as checks come in and stuff. And then it wasn't there. And it's fine. I can do it. It's just a more time-consuming way of doing it, going to another screen and each time. So.
Yeah. I don't know why it doesn't show on Essentials, to be honest, but it does, again, where some of these say, you can see the little exclamation point here. These are all depending on what version you have, and, it's allowed on some of them, it's not allowed on the others.
Okay. Okay,
and
thanks.
sometimes it's their add-on app in order to be able to use that. Get funding would be going out and looking for a loan. So receiving payments might be through their payment system because they want to encourage you to use the QuickBooks payments
Oh,
receipt
yes. which we-
versus your
yeah.
own method.
Okay, which we do want to use, but there are, I'm sure, still going to be people who just pay by check. So,
Yep.
okay, great. Thank you.
Anything else?
Let's see, sign up for QuickBooks Online to work on financials from 2021. All right, here's a question. Are you able to sign up for QuickBooks Online to work on financials from 2021? And yes, because you can start at any time you want. But when you're linking up your bank account, you are going to be limited to how many months your bank will download the transactions.
Perfect answer, Pam.
All right. Well, we are right on time. Thank you, everybody, for that. And we will see everybody again a week from today, same time, same channel. You'll get a reminder the day before with the Zoom link, and we will start again at 9 o'clock and start on the next section.
Thank you.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everyone.
Thank you.
you.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you.
Thanks, Crystal.
Bye.
Thanks, Pam.
Bye.
Thanks, Tricia.
Bye.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.